This is With the First Pick, the CBS Sports NFL Draft Podcast. This is episode 65. I'm Ryan Wilson. That handsome young fella there smiling with his pearly whites, that's Rick Spielman. Today, the With the First Pick Summer Scouting School is looking at the wide receivers class. And Rick, it's a deep one, even beyond names by some guy called that goes by Marvin Harrison Jr. But how does the class stack up to recent classes at the position? We'll talk about that. We know Marvin Harrison is wide receiver 1, but which wideouts might be next off the board? We'll get to all that and more. And in case you missed it, on the last podcast, me and Rick talked about episode 1 of Summer Scouting School. Took a look at the old quarterbacks there. You know about guys named Caleb Williams and Drake May. But if you want to hear about some other names ahead of the college football season, like, I don't know, Dukes Riley Leonard or Quinn Ewers at Texas or Bo Nix out in Oregon, you can check that out in the podcast feed. And just a reminder, our summer scouting series will continue every week right up until the start of the football season. And next week, Rick and I are talking. I took a couple of days off, Rick. I forgot how to talk.
Oh my God, you've been on vacation and you're going on vacation. Yeah, I mean, how many vacations can you take? You got to get back into the rhythm of actually working.
Well, it's funny. When I go on vacation, my wife, it's 6-hour car ride back and forth. My wife is doing a lot of the talking. I just do a lot of the listening. So I was out of practice for talking. And then, my kids asked me all sorts of stupid stuff. I don't want to answer those questions. So I just went on a little trip of silence. So I got to get back into it.
Sounds like when you deal with me and Pete on this podcast.
It is exasperating. You guys are more exasperated than my family, but we're all family. So I'll say that. But next week, Rick and I will be talking running backs and tight ends. Now, Rick has informed me because he's done the homework ahead like he did back in school, that this running back class, and you said it in the podcast last week, probably not a first-round pick, but we'll talk about all that. There will be a first-rounder in the tight end class. I know that, and I only know one name right now. So
yeah, no, and it'll be interesting to see when we get through 10 names that Debo keeps hammering us during the summertime when everybody else is trying to get some downtime, hammering us on this draft. And by the time we get through all the positions, we'll have a pretty good feel going into the season. But as you know, things change.
I want to know, how do you reconcile yelling at me for taking a vacation and then you yell at Debo for not allowing you vacation time?
Because I'm a worker, okay?
And just so people are clear, because people actually think that you're legitimately this way. You're like the nicest person on planet Earth. You just like to play the tough guy.
No, just trying to play my role. I received the script of this podcast.
No one sent you that script.
Yeah.
Ryan, can we talk about my text the other day that Rick reacted to, I think, quite literally?
So I was in Maine for a few days visiting my wife's side of the family, and they're awesome, and they let us hang out with them in Maine. So I'm at the beach. The cell phone reception at the beach in this particular spot in Maine was pretty spotty. So I could occasionally see messages, but it wouldn't let me respond. That's how bad the signal was. But I see this text from Debo that says emergency podcast. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, a player got arrested. Drake May lost his arm in a boating, like something crazy. And then I go on to read that there were no players drafted in the supplemental draft. And that was the reason that we needed to do this emergency podcast. And then I scroll down to see Rick saying, is this serious? Because I just went back into the house from wherever I was going because I thought we were going to do a podcast about there no players being drafted in the supplemental draft. I get back to the hotel. I see that I missed a call from Rick because I'm sure he was scrambling, concerned about this supplemental draft podcast emergency version. Rick, what happened?
Yeah, no, I take my job very seriously, and Debo thinks he's a funny man, but he's not a funny man. And last time we had the emergency podcast, I was on a walk, and I sprinted about 1.5 miles back to the house.
Did you time it back?
Yeah, I had to sprint back because I was out walking the dogs.
Okay, but what was that emergency podcast about? To be clear, that was the #1 overall pick being traded.
It's still draft related. That's all Rick heard.
And all of a sudden, Debo, because it's summer and who knows, Debo, where's Waldo? Is he in Seattle? Is he in Europe? Is he in Fort Lauderdale? Where is he? He texts his emergency podcast, and all of a sudden, all the alarms start going off in my head. I was halfway in the car, halfway down the street, and I see that, and I turn back around.
You did not, Rick.
I did. And I scrambled. Then I was looking at 2 receivers that were in there. And
stop it.
And I was getting ready to do some tape just so we get a quick feel. for these
God.
guys. It was a mess.
Debo, do you feel bad now that you found out what Rick went through?
Not even a little bit.
You weren't going anywhere important, were you, Rick, that you turned the car around?
Golf.
Okay. You're fine. You're fine. Rick, Debo saved you from, you probably went back out there and shot once you realized it wasn't a podcast.
Because it was a fake emergency alert. I mean, you can only cry wolf so many times. So the next time there's an actual emergency podcast coming on, I don't know if he's crying wolf or what he's crying.
Oh, I love it. I love that Rick was worried about watching the Purdue wide receiver and talking about
last year, actually.
What'd you say?
I believe he did not play last year.
Yeah, I don't think he did either. But you're hardcore. I'll give you that.
First, getting ready for the emergency podcast.
Oh, I saw that on my phone. I was like, oh my gosh, I hope Rick wasn't going anywhere important to turn the car around.
Yeah, but I think you know me well enough now.
All right, well, that was a nice little break from that was a vacation inside a vacation for me. So thank you for that. Also, remember, hit the old thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, where you can find us at NFL on CBS. It really helps promote the pod to folks who might not otherwise know we exist, especially this time of year where NFL draft isn't at the forefront unless you're Rick Spielman worried about the supplemental draft. Other people are watching baseball or looking ahead to college football. So
Wimbledon, that was a big thing.
Wimbledon, Women's World Cup starts.
Yeah, the U.S. Women's Open last week at Pebble Beach was. There's a lot of great things, and that when I was a general manager, I loved the summers because I can watch all that other stuff and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, or if the U.S. Open is out at the what's the Minnesota course?
Where was that at? Big, really nice course. I can't think of the name.
But you got to play there when you weren't watching golf. A lot of benefits to being a general manager. How would you say the benefit package compares on the podcast?
Well, right now I'm just a civilian, just trying to figure out how to turn on a button. And with Debo, me tying into the studio, I had Peoples that always did that for me. It takes me 15 minutes just to get on, and then I'm on 15 minutes early, and I'm staring at a blank screen because you two yahoos can't come on time for the 9:30 show.
You're like Tom Coughlin. We were on 1 minute early, and you were like, "That's 9 minutes late."
No, you look at your phone. I just called you. I said, I was just getting ready to yell at everybody.
I was actually writing the script, which I cannot read, and doing a little background, and that's what I was doing. But fair enough. I get it, Rick. Just be happy you're not on another podcast where we were routinely 30 minutes late. All right, that's a conversation for another time. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod. And if you like what we do, leave us a 5-star review. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you watch your podcast. And to quote Pat P and old BMAC on All Things Covered, tell a friend to tell a friend about the pod. And Rick, one last thing before we get to these wide receivers. This is me in my infomercial voice. Do you want to talk to Rick Spielman and do it for a great cause? Well, do I have the deal for you? For a limited time, Rick Spielman, former general manager with more than 30 years of NFL experience, will get on a private Zoom call with you. And all you have to do is go to the link in the podcast description. Or if you're watching here on YouTube, you can see it on eBay. Bid on the opportunity to talk to Rick, and all the proceeds go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Want to yell at Rick about any of his draft picks? Make that bid. Want to tell Rick that I do a better job at player comps than he does? Make that bid. Want to challenge Rick to a trivia contest over Zoom, and you will definitely win? Make that bid. And finally, do you want to hear 10 minutes of dad jokes? All you got to do, Rick, is make that bid. Seriously, though, it's for a great cause. And Rick, despite his gruff exterior, as I mentioned earlier, it's a lot of fun to talk to. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, no, it's for a great cause. And I look forward to whoever is willing and able to afford the $10 bid to come in and talk to me.
Well, it starts at 10. Now you make the bid. It could go into the hundreds or thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Well, my wife, she already asked if no one does it, if I would pay her, she would come on at least so we have something to talk about.
Yeah.
That would be worth a bid now.
I love it. Absolutely. My biggest question is when is this photograph from? Because you're wearing a tie.
I don't know where that's from, Debo. Is that from one of my studio appearances? I must say myself.
That looks like the HQ Studios.
It does. Must have been early on in the process because he is wearing a tie.
Rick has aged a lot in the years since.
This podcast episode, what number? 65?
65.
Yeah, that'll wear on you.
That'll wear on you, no doubt about it. All right, let's talk about these wide receivers. And remember, Link is in the description if you want to bid on a chance to talk to Rick Spielman about anything. And his, unlike our buddy Pete Briscoe, Rick enjoys art, movies, other sports, soccer. If you want to talk about that with him. One of the guys who bid on the Pick Six podcast, Johnny from he's from Great Britain. I talk to him all the time about soccer, especially during the World Cup last December. So you never know. All right, Rick, let's start here. This wide receiver class, you and I watched the same 5 guys this time, so our comps will be a little more apples to apples. Just upon first glance here in the middle of July, this class feels pretty deep. Not going to be as deep as the Justin Jefferson class, for example, but it feels like there's some players that you can find in the top 100 picks that are going to help your team pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think this class will be comparable to what we saw in last year's class, except I do think that there are 2 that we'll get into here that are above the class from last year that came out.
All right, let's start with Marvin Harrison, because Marvin Harrison Jr., is he one of the best non-quarterbacks to come out in the last decade?
Yeah, just watching him on tape, I thought that this guy is as polished of a route runner as I've seen. His savvy, his smarts, knowing how to beat man coverage, knowing how to get open versus zone. The one thing that I've never seen a college receiver do that he did exceptionally well was when the quarterback scrambled, he was unbelievable getting open and giving the quarterback a target downfield. He just had a natural feel and instinct. Quarterback's out of the pocket. He was either taking off deep or coming back to the quarterback to give the quarterback a target. People may knock him a little bit because I don't think he's going to be a 4-3 receiver, but he plays more than fast enough. He has excellent body control, excellent in contested situations, came up big time last year for Ohio State. Games I watched, in the Georgia, in the playoff game, he had big games. So
they probably win that game if he doesn't leave with a concussion.
Yeah, no, but he is a very, very good receiver. One of the best receivers I graded coming out. Just really hard to poke a lot of holes in his game. And so I don't know if we're getting into all the other stuff yet, but really, really thought this guy is going to be a difference maker. And he, to me, would be the leader in the pack right now. If we're going to go way out predictions, as a Rookie of the Year candidate once he gets drafted.
Oh, look at you. Good Lord. I'll go even further than you. I bet he makes the Hall of Fame. How about that? Can you better that one?
No, I'm not going to bet on that one.
So he's 6'3", unofficial, 185, and he plays. He somehow plays bigger than 6'3", it feels like. I thought his change of direction skills were insane for someone that size. I felt like he moves like a much smaller wide receiver because sometimes, and this was an issue with Quentin Johnson so much, but sometimes with these bigger wide receivers, they feel a little stiff. There is no stiffness anywhere in Marvin Harrison Jr.'s game. I think he's a top 5 pick all day long. I mean, you talk about trying to find things to not like about a player. He had like a focus drop I saw in the Michigan game, but that's it. And it doesn't show up frequently. So, as someone once told me, there doesn't have to be anything wrong with players. And I think that feels like the case for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yes. Now can we get into the drum roll, please? Our comps are who we're looking for in a matchup.
Yeah. All right. You're ready to go, I guess. So we both agree top 5 pick, maybe higher.
Yes. I think he'll be number 3. I would guess right now off the board after the 2 quarterbacks.
Yep. Okay, go ahead. You want to do your comp first? Or you want me to do mine first?
I will do mine first.
Go for it.
My comp is Justin Jefferson.
Now that one, let me just ask you. That was interesting because Justin Jefferson played a lot of slot his final year at LSU. Marvin Harrison Jr. moves around, but he plays outside, and he's not that tall. And we'll see. They'll probably time close. I think Justin ran in the 4.4, so I bet Marvin Harrison hits the 4.4s. If he runs a 4.55, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But Justin Jefferson was a curious one.
The reason I'm saying Justin Jefferson is because of the route running ability.
Ooh, okay.
And because of his ability, and what I always graded receivers, to torque his body to catch off-target throws.
Yep.
And his ability to win in contested situations. And Justin Jefferson was not probably as good coming out of college as Marvin Harrison is. But if you look at Justin Jefferson today, that's who Marvin Harrison Jr. reminded me of when I watched his college tape.
I don't hate it. And I'm willing to be open-minded about it, unlike some people on this podcast I work with who I will not name, because they're not exactly the same size. They didn't play the exact same position. They do things a little differently.
But you're pigeonholing things. You have to have an open vision. When you're doing guys this early,
I agree.
We're looking at traits. I mean, oh my God, he didn't play in the slot all the time. Justin Jefferson did. Oh my God. How can you make that comparison?
Hey, Diva, how would you rank Rick's impression of me?
That was poor.
You do a better English accent, I think is what Diva's saying, Rick. Oh, you didn't even go. I thought you were going to do the sticky wicket thing. All right. So my comp, and try to keep your face, let's see your poker face, Rick. My comp, and this was tough. Like, part of me thought about Megatron, but Megatron ran 4 threes, and he was much thicker, so I didn't go that direction. I'm asking you to keep an open mind, Rick, just as you asked me. So I went with game changer, Hall of Famer. He was faster than Marvin Harrison Jr., but he impacted the game in a way that very few have. Randy Moss.
No.
Why not?
As fast as Randy Moss.
I just said that. But you just said we have to keep an open mind.
I'm not, but they're
I'm not, he said. Oh, no. So if you're watching on YouTube, Debo put the poll up, and he asked, better pro comparison for Marvin Harrison Jr., Justin Jefferson, Randy Moss. 3/4 of the respondents, Rick, agreed with you. Okay, so now we're tied 1-1. I won last week with one of our poll questions for the quarterbacks. You win handily with the Justin Jefferson one. All right, go ahead. What you want to talk about Randy Moss and because you saw him live and you know more about him than I do. So tell me the differences.
Randy Moss is faster. Maybe separates a lot better downfield just with his vertical speed.
Okay. All right.
That's why I couldn't make that comparison. And I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is a more crisp route runner than Randy Moss.
Let me ask you this. So coming out, Randy Moss was just a go route guy, or did he do more than that?
Well, remember, he went from West Virginia to Marshall.
Right.
Had some off-field concerns coming out, but there was no question that Randy Moss was a legit vertical threat, and all the receiving yards and everything that Randy Moss did great in the NFL was done on the vertical part of the field, running vertically, where I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is not as fast. He can make plays vertically, but he can make plays at all levels of the field.
Yeah. All right. I agree with that. It was hard for me to find, like, Justin Jefferson actually is a pretty good one. Clearly the people agree with you. I don't know if Debo just asked all your relatives, but whatever, I'll take the loss. So we're tied 1-1 on the poll question comps. All right. Fair enough.
And you know the game I'm looking forward to, since you're going to forget as a host to ask me that?
No, I haven't. I haven't the game, and I actually have a name of a player I'm going to be watching the other side because you gave me such a hard time last week. What's the game?
My game is Penn State on October 21st, and everybody watched last year when Joey Porter Jr. was playing against those receivers coming out at Ohio State and against, but they have another really, really good corner, Kalen King.
You stole my paper. That's exactly what I have written down.
that I looked at a little bit, and he'll be coming up as one of the top 5 corners coming out in this year's draft.
I have it written right here, Kalen King.
Okay.
First round, second round possibility.
Just do your own work. Come on.
Joey Porter, by the way, we talked to him about this at the combine when he came on set, how he had such a great game against Marvin Harrison Jr. And very few people on planet Earth that were able to say that. He, as close as you can, shut down Marvin Harrison Jr. in that game. And Joey Porter Jr. admitted that he at times was bored. He wasn't bored in that game, but teams weren't throwing in his direction. And, you know, when you have the wide receiver crew that Ohio State had last year, Marvin Harrison is going to get some targets, and he did. And Joey Porter Jr. not only more than held his own, probably had one of his best games. All right.
Just because I know we'll get something in the comments here, when Porter matched up with Harrison, did very well. Harrison had 10 receptions for 185 yards in that game. So I know some people will say something in the comments, but that was not against Joey Porter.
No, that's right. I'll go back and look. I actually charted each time that Joey Porter Jr. and Marvin Harrison Jr. were matched up. And I think he had like 4 receptions, Marvin Harrison did, like 2 yak 2 yards after catch. One was a slant. I'm just going off the top of my head here from talking about it so much during the draft process. One, Joey Porter was playing like off zone coverage, so it wasn't even his responsibility. So yeah, he had a big day. He didn't have a big day against Joey Porter Jr. So you can make those comments if that will get what gets you going. But as Rick likes to tell me, you would be ill-informed. All right, Rick. Speaking of Ohio State wide receivers, and I feel like they have a factory there. They just keep pumping these guys out. You love this guy. I like this guy, but you love this guy. Emeka Egbuka, another in the long line of playmaking Ohio State wide receivers. Played a lot in the slot. And, man, we'll get to it in a second, but your comp for him is rich. Like I'm in the upper middle class neighborhood. You're living in the McMansion on the hill with this one. So tell me about
if you don't swing for the fences in July, then don't swing, because all of a sudden that'll grab people's attention and they'll make sure that, God, I got to go back and make sure I really do my homework on this guy. Like, your comp is very average or very safe. My comp is trying to hit one out of the park. And so
all right, let's see it. You're swinging. Let's see what you got, Dave Kingman.
Well, can we talk about the receiver first? Can you?
Yeah, go ahead. I want to get your thought. I'd like to get your scouting report.
Egbuka? Yeah. Egbuka? Is that the word? Egbuka, correct?
Emeka Egbuka.
Emeka Egbuka.
I think it's how he pronounces it.
Yeah.
You were close.
A receiver from Ohio State. I'll just tell you this. Watching these two, they are a better combination than when Wilson and Olave came out. These
wow.
Are better.
Rick's coming in hot, Debo.
I am going to put them up there with the Justin Jefferson and my comp, Jamar Chase combo that LSU had.
That is crazy. Okay, what do we know about Marvin Harrison Jr.? What about Egbuka gets your attention?
Yeah, well, I thought he was faster. I didn't think he was as crisp of a route runner. I think he's a very smooth athlete. I think he has excellent hands. He had a few concentration drops, but that did not bother me. His acceleration after the catch, I thought, was very good. He can weave and make people miss in the open field. He has big play ability written all over him. I just said he's a notch below Harrison Jr., but this is the best receiver combination I've seen coming out of college.
Man, I liked him. I liked him better. My comp was Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think he's a better version of Jackson Smith-Njigba.
How can you say that?
I said he's a better version of Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Okay.
It's funny. You have two sets of rules. Like, the rules for your comps are one thing, and nothing's off the table. And then my comps have to be the exact spitting image. Number 2, I think Chris Olave wore number 2, didn't he? Back in the day.
Yeah.
But no, I thought he's listed at almost 6'1", 204 right now. We'll see if that holds up as we get through the process here. He's also listed as a 4.5 guy. He feels like he plays a lot faster than that. I don't know what he runs, but he doesn't play at 4.5.
No, I think he's going to be high 4.3s, low 4.4s, just based off of watching him run on the tape.
Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba was a 4.51 guy when we saw him at the pro day, but his short area quickness was off the charts. And I feel like Egbuka checks that box, and he also seems to be fleet of foot in a straight line.
He's faster than Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Yeah.
But he's not as crisp as Jackson Smith-Njigba getting into and out of his routes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I actually made that note in the games that I watched. I'm not willing to say he's just a notch below Marvin Harrison Jr. That's a bridge too far for me. And if I'd said that, you would have reached through the screen and punched me. But I like it.
Your opinion.
I like it. I think he's a better player. And by the way, Jackson Smith-Njigba was what? He went 20. He was the first wide receiver taker. And he went 20th overall. So that's not a slap in the face for Emeka Egbuka. No. But Jamar Chase went 5th.
Yep. I'm going to say this guy has potential to be a top 10 pick next year.
Jeez. Listen, I know you're a big Ohio State guy, but this might be taking it. You want us to get the A+++ service next time when we go to the pro day. No, I like both these players a lot. I think both these players are first round picks. I don't know if Egbuka goes. So you think like top 10 maybe as we sit here?
Yes.
Okay. No, I like it.
You don't think he goes in the first where you lower it like in the low 20s or?
No, I just say I had like first, second, because I don't know at this point. Like anything can happen. Well, a year ago, Jackson Smith
In
and
general,
Jigba.
when we're trying to make predictions, the show is based on us going out on a limb and doing your homework and saying things that are not safe. You are
Oh,
playing it safe and close to the vest as you always do.
you're like one of the safest people I know. You must. I was gone for 3 days. I feel like I was gone for 30 days. You took like a media training course of these hot takes. Now you're just saying crazy stuff. All right. Well, if we're doing that, he is Megatron, and he is going first overall. There we go. Top that,
Never
Rick.
mind. You do the safe thing because it's a lot better for you than trying to go out on a
Yeah,
limb.
be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
All right, so you have Jamar Chase. I have Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's probably somewhere in between there. But hey, there's a worse place to start than with those two names. And he is exciting. Now, listen, I'll ask you this because he lines up a lot on the same side of the field with Marvin Harrison Jr. And more importantly, he's on the same offense with Marvin Harrison Jr. How much does that affect the evaluation?
Doesn't. You're still watching his route running ability. You're still watching him catch. I mean,
But he's getting the second and third best defensive players on that team.
not
every
always.
time.
No, because a lot of colleges don't play match.
Okay.
They match up. They play their zones and they play against. That's why my game, I want to see him because he'll probably match up against Kalen King and Penn State as well. So just like you just talked about, you make a great point on Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Joey Porter Jr., but it wasn't a matchup every snap, every play last year.
That's right. You're right about that.
So
All right.
I'm saying it's the same thing. They don't go one-on-one or usually match up in college, player versus player. They do more in the NFL than they do in college.
Okay. No, I get it. So you mentioned Kalen King again in the Penn State game. I mentioned the Michigan game because let's see, they have Rod Moore.
Okay.
Safety.
Oh, that'll be so now we're going to match up a receiver versus a safety.
Well, if you play, Rick, you may not know this, but if you play in the slot a lot of times the safety is sometimes tasked with covering the slot receiver. But he has a day 2 grade on him right now, according to some of the folks that Rick and I talked to. So, in addition to the Kalen King game, we can look for the Michigan game, which is always a big game. Last year, Michigan won that game, by the way. And Rod Moore is someone that to keep an eye on.
Okay, so I'm going to see the one-on-one matchups with if Egbuka,
yeah,
safety and one-on-one, then I way overestimated his ability as a receiver.
But you get an opportunity to watch more players. That's all. I'm giving them a chance. You have Ohio State. You use Ohio State twice, by the way, for both. I mean, the Penn State for both these Ohio State players. I decided to
corner, in my opinion, and I haven't seen them all yet, but the best corner in the Big Ten. I don't know if there's another first-round corner coming out of the Big Ten yet.
So you think he's so good he can cover both Marvin Harrison Jr. and Egbuka at the same time? That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, Ryan, that's exactly what I'm saying. He's incredible.
Rick, so if you're watching this on YouTube, Rick, if you can name this movie, I will bid $10 on your Zoom call.
Nerds?
He said nerds, Steve-O. No, that's one of my favorite movies. We rewatched it with my 11-year-old a couple weeks ago. He loves it. Napoleon Dynamite.
I've never seen it.
Napoleon's on the left. His brother Kip is on the right. I guess I have to be Kip because I'm slightly shorter than you, but you're Napoleon in this instance.
Yeah. I'll have to watch that one.
It's a great movie. So, all right. Did we have a poll for the Egbuka one, Debo?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you. I don't know if I can take the 0 for 2 run. All right, Rick, let's go on to number 3. Oh, also worth noting, by the way, we rank these wide receivers the same.
Oh, that's ironic.
We agree that Marvin's number 1, Emeka's number 2, and number 3. We also agree on that. And by the way, I'll tell you who number 3 is right after this break.
And how about this?
Get ready for non-stop action that will have you saying,
You gotta be kidding!
"Oh my, Canada."
Mr. Chase thinks, what a play and what a finish!
That's a pretty good football, eh?
He's gone all the way to the house!
It's the Canadian Football League, Thursday on CBS Sports Network.
So if you're listening to the podcast, that was just a little ad for the CFL on CBS Sports Network. Rick, did you ever have the occasion to travel during your time in the league to see a CFL game?
I did. When I was the pro director with the Chicago Bears back in the 90s, I would make like yourself and Debo going on vacation every other week. That would be my Canadian swing during the summertime. I'd go to their training camps in the preseason games, which are going on, I
Wow.
believe, right now. Started in Toronto, went to Hamilton, and actually ended up in Quebec to go up and see the Montreal Alouettes.
How's your French?
Can I tell you a quick story? It was back in
course.
the 90s when there was no cell phone or GPS or Google Maps or whatever all these people use today. So I did not know where the campus was where they were having training camp. So I pulled into a gas station and I went in there, and being the bubbly personality that I am,
Oh, geez.
I said, I said,
You started with yes.
yeah, I forgot how to say hello. Bonjour.
Bonjour, you got it. There you go.
That's a whole nother story when I tried to do French in one semester in college and they kicked me out the first day, told me to go do another language, but that's a whole
How is that possible?
the lady, our professor, was
Lady.
in there, and I had to take a foreign language to finally get my degree. And I tried French, and I said I could do this in a semester, and it ended up getting kicked out in day 2. She said probably the best interest for you to go look at another language.
Oh, she said that to you? Did she say it in front of everybody?
Yeah. After class, she called me up.
Oh, jeez.
Sitting there going back and forth talking in French, and all I'm saying is "oui" and "pardon." And
So wait a second. How did it end with the gas station story in Canada?
so the lady was very upset because I was speaking English. She thought it was rude and disrespectful that I didn't speak French. So I had no idea, because I asked her in English on how to get to the campus, and she kept answering me back in French.
Wow.
So
Maybe I should try that when you start getting short with me. I just start talking to you in French. Did you find the campus?
I did find the campus. I actually used my my road map that I unfolded, the Canadian road map.
Your triptychs.
Yeah.
Did anyone stick out of any players that you found, quote unquote, in Canada that went on to have pretty good NFL careers?
Yeah. Because we had the Canadian workout every December. So we brought in the top 4 or 5. I remember in Miami, we had an offensive lineman, Mark Dixon, who ended up having a really good career. And then we lost out on the pass rusher. I can't recall his name right now, that had a really productive NFL career while he was healthy. But
was it Cameron Wake? Did he play in the CFL?
Wake, yeah.
Yeah, he was a great player, man.
Yeah, no. So we had him in for a visit, and we ended up getting outbidded.
Yeah, he was good.
Yep.
And now more than ever, it feels like a lot of these players coming through college ranks are Canadian born. Chase Claypool, Neville Gallimore. There are probably a lot of guys I didn't even know were Canadian. That who was there's someone we talked about last year.
A defensive lineman, I think, played with the New Orleans Saints for a while.
Yes, I know you're talking about, but also the left tackle from Syracuse, he's Canadian.
Yeah.
My guy, I can't remember his name.
Bergeron,
thank you. 2nd round pick. Good Lord. 2 old guys trying to remember people's names. That's not a way to go through life. All right, number 3 on our list, Rick. You stole my comfort. This one I see. Malik Nabers, LSU, number 8. The funny thing is, I remember watching Kayshon Boutte tape last year and seeing number 8 pop up time and time again, while Kayshon Boutte didn't flash as much as I would like. He's fun. Like he's a fun player.
Yes, I really like this kid. I thought explosive athlete, quick, good speed, but he usually has to set up his deep routes with a double move. Quick twitch in and out of his routes.
Hey, I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you because I noticed a double move and I thought that was a good thing. The twitchiness. Why do you say he has to set up his routes that way?
Because if a guy can't get over top of the DB down the field with just pure speed, by doing a little double move, a head shake, something to freeze the DB for a second, then you can see his acceleration get on top of the DB.
So you felt like straight line, he wasn't going to win consistently? Is that what I'm hearing?
I just saying straight line off the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
But what really stood out was his route running savvy. I thought he was an excellent route runner. I thought he can separate in man coverage out of the plant. Thought he had good hands. He really extends, catches the ball. He's very courageous coming inside, knowing he's going to take a hit. Needs to be a little bit more consistent in down the field situations. He is a quick twitched athlete with the ball in his hands after the catch. I finished the season very strong. He had 128 yards versus Georgia in the SEC championship game, 163 yards in the bowl game versus Purdue. He played in the bowl game.
There you go. Checkbox.
His comp to me was Jackson Smith and the Jigba.
Yeah, I had many of the same comments you had. I thought he was a burner. I thought he could run by guys consistently. I thought he was tough in the middle of the field. He ran a lot of slants and made contested catches. The defensive back would meet him and the ball at the catch point. He held onto the ball more times than not. Good contact balance, almost like a running back. You hit him and he stays on his feet and gets the yards after the catch. I want to see, we'll get to that, months from now, but I saw two different measurements for height, weight, almost 6 feet, around 200 pounds. And I saw something a little less than that. 4.47 unofficial. I thought he played that fast, maybe faster. And I liked him too. Like I like him a lot more than Kayshon Boutte, who a year ago we were talking about as a possible top 40 pick. And then for various reasons, it didn't quite work out for him. He ended up in New England. We'll see how that goes. He'll have his opportunity. But I think Malik Nabers is a higher upside player athletically. And I don't know how he is as a teammate, as a person off the field, but on the field, he flashed a lot. And he flashed a lot when I was trying to watch Kayshon Boutte last year. And then I actually did watch the Purdue game yesterday, and they had no answers for him. He flashed consistently. My comp for him, I had to go deep for this one because I'd already used Jackson Smith and Jigba, but someone who plays mostly in the slot. I mean, he can play outside. I went with Miles Austin.
Huh?
What's the difference? Miles Austin had a great career as a guy in the middle. He's a bigger target than you thought. He was 6'2". You know that?
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, he was bigger than this kid, and he wasn't as twitchy as this kid.
Not as twitchy because he was a late round undrafted guy.
Make comparisons. Look at the physical traits that you see on tape, and then try to relate those to someone. Not just, I don't know where you come up with your comps, but two different types of athlete, in my opinion.
Rick, all I will say is I'm going to pray for you, number one. And number two, you compared Emeka Egbuka to Jamar Chase. That's all I'm going to say. That is rich.
We will see.
We will see. Miles Austin had a great career. He's a good slot receiver. He's a couple inches taller than Malik right now. Maybe Malik will grow. We'll see what the height weight comes in at. And what's another good slot receiver between Miles Austin and Jackson Smith and Jigba that sticks out?
Well, what's your criteria?
Well, it's similar size and similar play style. Because that's the hard part. I mean, that's the problem, right?
No, it's not the problem. It's you have to think deep.
All right, give me a name.
I'll just go someone off the top of my head.
Yeah. It's
not the same caliber of receiver as Nabers is, but similar built, I believe, was KJ Osborne, who we drafted out.
Oh, yeah. There you go. See? Not so bad. Okay. So you would have preferred that to Miles Austin?
Yes. Something that a thicker built guy that's not as tall that has some twitch to him.
Miles is pretty thick. He wasn't slight frame.
He's tall, but he doesn't have the same twitch, the athletic twitch that this kid has. And
I should tell you, like Pete tells me about the quarterbacks, you should probably listen to me after the Michael Wilson fiasco that you may never live down. Future Hall of Famer Michael Wilson.
Oh, I've got it in my back pocket. That one is not going anywhere.
Because what I have learned from the Senior Bowl last year when you were killing my guy Mike Wilson is that I was right about Mike Wilson. So
yeah, I didn't know he had 150 yards in receiving yards and OTAs. If he's healthy.
That's and I watched the Arizona Cardinals behind the scenes with Mike Wilson too. I like him even more now. So.
Okay, good.
3rd round pick. Here we go. Number 4. Now this comp here, if Jamar Chase was rich, this one is Elon Musk silly. This comp. Because this comp crossed my mind, and I said, if I put this down, Rick might quit this show. So we're going to talk about Xavier Worthy. He's our number 4 wide receiver out of Texas, and he's 6 feet, maybe 6'1", 160 pounds. He looks bigger than 160 on the field. Like he doesn't look like he is, 40 pounds lighter than everyone else. He has speed to burn. I thought he had good hands. I thought he tracked the ball well on sort of layered intermediate throws. Wins consistently on deep routes. The weight is an issue in terms of he actually does weigh 160. Doesn't have the physical strength to run through arm tackles consistently in the middle of the field like some of these other receivers we've talked about do. But I like his game a lot. I won't say the comp yet. I'll let you give me your scouting report and then we'll compare notes.
Yeah, a lot of the same. I thought he looked rail thin on the tape. So you don't get fooled by the socks. You see the socks. He's got like 3 pairs of socks that make.
Oh yeah, and he pulls them all the way up too.
Yeah. So don't get fooled by with the
That's an old trick, huh?
Yeah. There's a lot of tricks there that you apparently fall for. But I thought this guy was very quick, very fast, had a little shake at the stem of his route, soft hands. The one thing that bothered me the most was that the drops. He had too many drops in the Washington versus Washington in the bowl game, where he had an opportunity to really shine and he didn't. Lacked strength in contested situations downfield. He can run. He has speed to elude after the catch, but he's not going to break many tackles. I said, with a productive year, this guy will be a first-round pick.
Ooh-wee.
And I see Devontae Smith and Jordan Addison in this guy.
Yeah, you got me so discombobulated with Malik Nabers. We forgot to do the draft range. You had him going first. I like him more as a second-round pick right now. And then Alabama game, because of Kool-Aid, I would imagine you had that penciled.
Yep.
And then I had Missouri because of Chris Abrams-Strain, a cornerback I liked a lot last year. I think he still has a couple years eligibility left, so I don't like to talk about the juniors coming out and push them that direction, but that's a matchup I'm interested in watching. Back to Xavier Worthy. So Devonta Smith, that crossed my mind. You also mentioned Jordan Addison. Man, here's the thing. Devonta Smith is a high bar, but is that what you're going for? High bar or realistic?
Yeah, I'm going for in July before the season. You go for high bar.
Okay.
Then you come back to realistic to see what they do. But I think his potential or where he can be very similar are those two comparisons.
Yeah, I went with Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace is a bigger wide receiver. Don't misunderstand. But he's a 9-route go get it guy, and he wasn't breaking a lot of arm tackles. So let me get through this.
I was with Mike Wallace, and I watched him in Pittsburgh. We had him. He is a go ball. This guy is a better, more fluid athlete getting into and out of his cuts than Mike Wallace is. So
let me ask you, in the spectrum of wide receivers, when you put the line down for Xavier Worthy, is he closer to Devonta Smith or closer to Mike Wallace? Because I feel like he's closer to Mike Wallace.
Well, no, that make no sense to me whatsoever. That comparison, it's horrible.
All right, you have him going.
I think it's funny. That Rick turns into Skip Bayless in the summer, and he's like Walter Cronkite, and around draft season. Very.
You know what else is I noticed, Devo? You're right about that, but also like when we start telling like personal stories, Rick stories, he becomes very nice again. Like he's telling a story about the lady yelling at him at the convenience store in Montreal. He's like a very easy to talk to guy. So listen, when you bid on Rick on eBay, specify which Rick you want to talk to, and that's the Rick that'll show up. Yeah, Rick is. I don't know what's going on. He must have shot like an 82 or something yesterday because he's feeling it. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so you had a second round grade on Xavier Worthy. I had second, third. Yeah. I think I need to see some things, but you were being optimistic about everything except my comps on this podcast. So you're thinking best case scenario.
First round, lower first round.
Yeah.
Second. He's better. I mean, if you want to try to make some kind of comparison that also popped in my head was the version we saw of the receiver from Tennessee last year, but I couldn't go there.
Oh, Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah,
Jalen. Actually, that's not a bad one either. You're pretty good at this.
Yeah. Well, all of them are better than Mike Wallace.
How does it feel that you and I had the same comps for Drake May and Caleb Williams?
Drake May and Caleb.
Last week we had the same comps for those players. How does that make you feel?
You didn't say May was going to beat Trevor Lawrence.
Daniel Jones, though. You had / Daniel Jones. You're covering your bases.
Well, I said Drake. I said Trevor Lawrence. I did have Daniel Jones, but
That's what I just said.
I put Trevor Lawrence first.
I would not go that far. That was again one of those comps you make when you've had 3 Michelob Ultras and you're not thinking clearly.
Two's the limit, and it's got to be over ice.
Rick in the mirror this morning. Who will it be today? If you're watching on YouTube, that's the guy from
51st Dates.
No, that's not 51st Dates. All right, Rick. Xavier, word of the game. You and I both circled Kool-Aid McKinstry, Alabama, September 9th, early in the season. That game is in Alabama. We talked about that on previous podcasts. Last year it was in Texas. Quinn Ewers got hurt. This time Quinn Ewers will obviously be playing. We don't know who the quarterback will be for Alabama. So Quinn Ewers to Xavier Worthy could be something worth watching. And then Kool-Aid McKinstry, who, spoiler alert, is probably a first-round consideration at cornerback.
There at first-round consideration.
Yeah. Along with your guy, Kalen King out of Penn State, who you will not quit talking about. We get it. You love Kalen King. All right. Let's talk about number 5 on our list. Rome. Are you going to pronounce his name or you want me to do it?
Odunze.
Oh, my God. Wait, what is going on? How'd you get that?
I haven't practiced names. It takes me about 9 months. I got him down right before the actual draft.
No, that's pretty close. That's what I'm saying.
Is it Odunze?
It's Odunze.
Odunze.
Yeah, you're not bad. Rome Odunze. Out of Washington. He is a big-bodied wide receiver. Listed currently at almost 6'3", about 217. He's listed as a sub 4.5 guy. I didn't think he played that fast on tape, but I thought he's fast enough. Big body wide receiver, gets in and out of breaks pretty smoothly, shows soft hands, catches the ball away from his body. Talking about stutter goes, we were talking about that with Malik Nabers. I saw Odunze do that, and I thought it helped him get open because he wasn't consistently separating down the field with just 9 route, trying to outrun people. Because of his size, he shows some yards after catch ability. He'll run through arm tackles. I thought he was a long strider, but like I mentioned, it wasn't going to run away from guys. Can stack wide defensive backs, but he won't separate at the end. That's something Marvin Harrison would do. He would stack a cornerback, and then the last 2 or 3 yards, he would create that separation to make the play. What did you think about Odunze in terms of what you saw?
Agree with you. The where you see him, he's not. I don't think he has the speed to take the top off coverage like you mentioned. But if you watch the Washington State game, the Apple Bowl, he did a nice job setting up the DBs to with a double move to get open down the field. Very strong hands, extends the catch. Okay with the 50-50 balls, although for his size, I'd like to see him be closer, win more consistently than he does. Not real electric with the ball in his hands after the catch. For a bigger guy, I wish he'd break more tackles.
Okay.
Because he's not as sudden as these other guys that we had talked about. You ready for my comparison?
The thing is, I don't hate it. And I say that hoping that you will understand that. I would like you to tone it down a little bit when I give you my comp. Who do you have?
He reminded me of Cedric Tillman from Tennessee last year.
And people might be like, well, Cedric Tillman wasn't great last year. Cedric Tillman was injured last year. I think he's going to be a really good pro when he gets healthy and you sort of see what he can do when he's 100%. And Jalen Hyatt told us at the combine, that that's the reason he got the opportunity to play.
Right.
Now, as I would say, he took advantage of that opportunity. As Rick might say, well, where was that productivity when Cedric Tillman was healthy? Because as Ohio State has proven, you can have 18 wide receivers on the field at the same time if you're good enough to get on the field. That's a conversation for later in the season once the things get going. I don't hate that comp. One that came to mind, and I heard and saw you grimace in my head when I said it. N'Keal Harry. See, there it is. N'Keal Harry was a big-bodied wide receiver who shouldn't have been a first-round pick. That's not my final comp. I have another comp that's even better.
Let's give it another shot.
That's what I thought, and that's what I thought the reaction would be. So I went in this direction. Let me see. Do you have arms on that chair? Because I want you to grip both arms. Cody Latimer.
Who?
Out of Indiana, second-round pick, drafted by the Colts.
I know who Cody Latimer is.
Oh, yes? Who? I had to give it to you.
This kid's more physical than Cody Latimer.
Yes, I agree. But similar size. I think they ran similarly based on combine numbers or whatever.
is there any way we can help Brian, or maybe can I help him do some comps before he actually comes on the air and does his own comps? Or is this what makes the show?
Yeah, that takes out the fun. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys are tied 1-1 in the polls.
That's right. Settle
Well,
down.
let's keep the polls up there. So let's see as this summer sessions keep going and more people get more familiar with some of these receivers or players whose comp is actually better.
Yeah, we may have to recirculate them once the football season begins, because I'm sure not a lot of people listening to this podcast have watched a ton, if they're not Washington fans or Texas fans of Odunze or Worthy. But yeah, we'll keep it going, and I feel confident in my abilities. You're taking the low hanging fruit. Like we should have some rules. You can't just use guys that you just saw 2 weeks ago in Cedric Tillman, but we'll get around to that.
What are you talking about? I didn't see him 2 weeks ago.
No, Cedric Tillman hasn't played the NFL yet. That's my point.
Yeah.
So we don't know. But there's good news, Rick. We both agree in the draft range. Day 2 guy.
Yep. Yeah. I said lower second round, maybe third, but I had him in the second round.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you on that. November 11th, Utah.
Yeah. They didn't play Utah last year. And Utah, to me, because there's not many defenses that are very good in the Pac-10, in my opinion, that can compete to the guys in the SEC. And I understand the athletes are different, although Pac-12, they have some really good athletes on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't know as many defensive players come out of the Pac-12 as the SEC or even the Big Ten. So, but Utah always is very good on the defensive side of the ball. They didn't play him last year, so I'm anxious to see how he would match up against Utah's defense.
Worth noting, by the way, we're talking about athletically that maybe Odunze is in the same conversation as some of the other players we talked about today. Last year, he went 75 catches, 1,145 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he had 100 yards or more 6 times. Now, as an evaluator, just looking at the stat sheet, does that get your attention, or is that just a matter of competition?
Right now, in this process, all you're doing is trying to look at him as a route runner and all those boxes that you're looking for to evaluate. Now, I understand. Please, people, if you're a Pac-12 fan and Ryan just said that the Pac-12 is very similar to
the Colonial Athletic Association, home of the William Mary tribe.
That's go ahead and get on him for that. What I'm saying is that you try to look at the individual and grade the individual on his route running ability, how he catches, how he runs after the catch. I understand that, okay, you may not watch him against Beaver Creek University, but Pac-12 does have some good defensive players on that side of the ball as well.
Yeah, I love BCU. Great team. I said I'm going to be looking forward to the matchup the week before the Utah matchup when they face USC, because this guy turns out for USC, first-round buzz. He plays safety, Rick, because I know you love safeties. I just want to see the secondary of USC in general, but I'll be watching Kalen Bullock as well. And he has some first and second round grades as we sit here.
Yep.
So
yeah, but I just don't get the safety versus the receiver deal, because when are they actually going to be matched up?
No, but I like to. Here's what I do, because I'm a hard worker.
They're extended down the field and they're playing zone. I understand that part.
Here's what I do. I have this rewind button, so I watch Odunze, and then I'll rewind it, and I'll watch Kalen Bullock.
Okay,
so 2 for 1. A little pro tip there for scouting purposes, Ricky. You can do more than one player.
Focus on each guy individually. That may help your evaluations and your comps a lot better.
Well, they couldn't get any worse. Hey, so any other wide receivers?
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of wide receivers. I
got my list in front of me. Can we read it to you?
Yeah.
So we talked about Odunze. There's another wide receiver at Washington who could get drafted sooner. Jalen McMillan. He's a baller. We know about the 2 guys at Ohio State, Harrison and Egbuka. LSU has a guy named Brian Thomas who's going to be worth watching. We talked about Xavier Worthy. Texas also has Odunze Mitchell, who's getting a lot of buzz, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Last year there were what felt like 50 wide receivers drafted.
Johnny Wilson of Florida State.
Johnny Wilson's another name.
Troy Franklin at Oregon.
Terry Franklin's another name. Troy Franklin, excuse me. Oronde Gadsden II plays at Syracuse. Remember his dad?
A tight end, or is he going to be a receiver?
That's going to be the question. He would be a sleight of frame tight end, but he can fill that sort of flex role if that's what you're looking for.
And is there what is it? Ladd. I can't read my writing.
Ladd McConkey at Georgia.
Georgia is another one that I had written down.
Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. Higher expectations last year that I didn't quite think.
Did him. Yeah, he's got to take. He's not in that. He's a notch below, in my opinion.
Right, but if he takes that step, Brew McCoy also USC transfer to Tennessee. There were some thoughts that he might come out last year. He'll have an opportunity to play with who's the quarterback now? Milton at Tennessee. Now that Jalen Hyatt and Rick's guy Cedric Tillman have gone on to the NFL. All right, Rick, that's it. So, how would you grade my comps?
My grade on your comps would be like a draft grade.
Yeah,
I'd probably give it a C-.
All right, that feels the response I got during the class felt like the teacher hated me, but in respect, and it turns out I passed the class, so that's fine.
Well, no one ever gives anyone a D or F, so I figured that's what I could go.
What would you give? How would you grade your comps?
A,
not A plus.
A plus. Yeah.
Oh, you would give A plus. Okay, you didn't know we're doing pluses. Okay, A plus.
Yeah.
If I set the over under for wide receivers in the first round next year at 4.5, what would you take?
Oh,
Under.
This year was 4. Last year was 6 wide receivers in the first round.
that's a good number.
The year before was 5, so it's always right around there. Ryan, in your way too early 2023 mock,
Yeah, how many did I have?
7 wide receivers and 4 ended up going.
Wow. Do you have that in front of you, Debo?
Yeah, Josh Downs. I'm working backwards. Josh Downs, Marvin Mims,
Okay.
Dante Demas from Maryland.
No, he got hurt. That doesn't count.
Keyshawn Butte,
Ugh.
Jordan
What?
Addison,
Don't stop. Just stop. You're embarrassing him.
Jackson Smith and Jigba,
Yeah, take that, Rick.
Quentin Johnston.
Oh.
Who?
Oh. Who, he says. Here's the funny thing, and this is what's going to happen. And just so people know, Rick actually loves me. He loves Debo even more. He's just being a ball buster. But here's what's going to happen, Rick. You are 100% doing a mock draft at some point in the next 8 months.
Contract. Hey, I'm just a hired hand, just here to support you.
And when you do that mock draft, we are going to crush you time and time and time again.
Don't get paid to do the mock drafts. I get paid to give opinions on people's mock drafts.
Well, you're earning your keep. I'll tell you that. All right, that's it. Anything you want to add, Rick? Any dad jokes you got? Anything like that?
Oh yeah, I missed a dad joke when we did the quarterbacks the other day. That way I gave the punchline. You know, I was over at the rec center the other day. You know, and that's part of the school, and I saw a coach over there, and he was kicking the heck out of a vending machine. And I said, geez, why is he so mad? Why? I said, sir, why are you so mad and kicking the vending machine? He says, I want my quarterback.
Hey, what does that have to do with football? I mean, why is that football related?
See, quarterback, that's a guy that throws the ball, and then he put the quarter in the machine and didn't.
That is the worst dad joke you've ever told. And that's a tough nut to crack. All right, well done. You've outdone yourself.
3.2 out of 10.
He gave you a 3.2.
Hang on a sec. I've been doing bad dad jokes.
No. One a show. Why
is that book so big? It's like you're reading out of the Bible.
Look at all my dad jokes. I've been.
Are you right? You're not writing those down.
Andy Reid's playbook.
Why is that book so big?
That's my my. Okay, here's one to go. All right.
Okay. Holy, I can't get over that book.
Huh?
I can't get over how big that book is.
What? Okay, we'll end on this.
Oh, okay.
When does a joke become a dad joke?
When
it becomes apparent.
All right, everyone. Thank you as always for watching. You can watch us live on YouTube at NFL on CBS. You can listen to us on the podcast, wherever you get your podcast. I would encourage you next time and going forward, do not listen to the last 5 minutes of any of these podcasts to avoid these dad jokes that you have since been subjected to. Remember, though, you can bid on Rick on eBay for a Zoom call. Supports a great cause, St. Jude's Children's Hospital. That link is in the description on the YouTube video, so head over there if you're listening to us. And thanks, as always, to my guy Rick and his dad jokes and his great player comps. We've all been blessed to hear those player comps. Thank you for that, Rick. Thank Debo, as always, for producing. And we'll see you guys next week talking running backs and tight ends.